I wanted to make a quick video about how to cook beans. I made a couple of these how-to videos recently. I want to make one more, how to cook beans. Beans are super easy to make, really cheap, and really healthy. High in fiber, decent amount of protein, and delicious. So I've made a few bean dishes recently for people. Hang on, I'm going to turn the baby monitor down. There we go. I've made a few bean dishes for people recently, and they've asked me, "Oh, what's the recipe for that?" And if you've watched me cook anything by now, you know I don't really go in for recipes. I go in for techniques. With the right technique, you can cook anything. No need of a recipe. You can raid your fridge, raid your pantry. You're good to go. So the basics of cooking beans is cook your beans first, which maybe seems redundant, but the easiest way to cook beans is get your beans cooked first and then add them to whatever you're making once they're cooked. You can start with canned beans, save yourself the time. The reason I like dried beans is you have a lot more control over the consistency, the texture. There you go, the texture at the end of it. So if you're going for a mushy bean, you can cook them a little longer. If you want a nice firm bean, like for a salad or a soup, you can cook them a little less. So I always start with dry beans and I always cook them first. One of the other reasons I like dried beans is they're way cheaper. I did a little research before this. You can get a can of dry beans at Kroger, a can of pinto beans for about 90 cents, has about 3.5 servings in it. You can get a pound of pinto beans for $1.20 and it has 13 servings. So obviously tons cheaper. So I've got about half my bag of beans left. I get 6.5 servings of beans. There's four and a half of us who are eating. So I'm gonna have some leftovers, easy as pie. The only problem with dried beans is you have to build in some cooking time. Now, traditionally, you would soak them maybe overnight or maybe all day, and then cook them in a pot with water for an hour or two beforehand. Mark Bittman, I've talked about before, has what he calls the quick soak way, where you put your dry beans in a pot with water, bring them to the boil. Once they're boiling, turn the heat off, put a lid on, let them soak for about, what does he say? I think 2 hours. He says soak for 2 hours, taste them. If they're tender, turn the heat back on, bring them to a boil, and taste them about every 10 minutes until they're cooked. Still, you're looking there about 3 hours of cooking time, right? My favorite by far is the Instant Pot. If you've got a pressure cooker on your stove, it works too. Put your beans in the Instant Pot, cover with a good amount of fresh water. And for what I'm doing tonight, pinto beans for a burrito bowl, where it doesn't really bother me if they're a little mushy or something, I'm gonna do them for an hour. So all in about an hour and 15 once you let it heat up and cool down. If you wanted a more a firmer bean, that's what I'm going for a salad or a soup, you might only want to cook them for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, let's say a red bean, something like that. But either way, cook them ahead of time. Like I said, dry beans in the Instant Pot pressure cooker, about an hour and 15 minutes and you're off to the races. This works for any type of bean: black bean, kidney bean, lima bean, navy bean, pinto bean, gigante bean. I think I'm out of beans. But cook the beans ahead of time and then cook the dish with your cooked beans. So for pinto beans, once these are cooked, I'm going to saute some onions in a pan with a little garlic eventually, some tomato. I'll let that cook a little bit. If I had some jalapeno pepper, I might throw that in. I don't think I do. I'll probably put in a little bit of cumin, a little bit of paprika, a little bit of chipotle pepper maybe. Stir it all up. Add the beans, let them cook for a while. You want refried beans? Give them a little zhuzh with the stab blender or do them in your countertop blender. You're great. If you wanted to do, let's say, something like a chana masala with chickpeas, cook the chickpeas about an hour in your Instant Pot, pressure cooker, or soak them and cook them, get them cooked. And then in your pot on the stove, cook up onions, ginger, garlic, maybe some lemongrass, tomatoes. Really let that cook down until it's all broken down. Give it a quick whiz with the stab blender or in your countertop blender. So you got a gravy. And then in the pan, cook it a little bit, add the chickpeas to that. If you want to do maybe sort of a Caribbean-esque bean stew, let's say you cook up some black beans in your pan on the stove. Again, onions, garlic, ginger, why not? tomatoes if you want them, throw some shredded coconut in there, whatever spices you want. Add the black beans, cook it up. That could be a nice thick sort of stew, or you could let it cook down to a little, something a little scoopable, sort of, ice cream consistency if you want it almost. If you're doing white beans, let's say you want white beans either to top off some pasta or you want to cook them down for a white bean puree, cook the white beans in a pan. Onion, garlic. I'm a bit of a one note musician here. Onions, garlic, maybe some sage, rosemary. Get fancy, throw a splash of white wine in there. Let that cook a little. Add the white beans. Now, if you want to make a white bean puree those suckers. If you want to have them whole, make sure you've cooked them a little less so they're firmer. Let them cook in that. Make sure the cooking liquid's off. Bam, you're good to go. You can use almost anything. I often go to my fridge and see that I've got half a thing of celery and an old carrot in there, or I've got some tomatoes that if I don't cook them today, they're going to have to get, chucked in the compost. I don't want to waste them. Those tomatoes are great cooked down to make sort of a gravy for beans. Celery, carrots, chop them up, add them in at the start, let them cook down, break down for sort of a gravy consistency, or toss them in a little later, let them stay, get cooked but stay whole so you end up with chunks of veggies in there. Peppers, whatever you've got, whack it in. So you can do almost any kind of beans you want this way. The one difference is lentils. I'll put lentils to the side. Lentils don't really need pre-cooking. Lentils, cook your onions and garlic, throw in dry lentils, and add broth or hot water as you cook in liquid. They'll absorb it and cook up a treat. No pre-soaking, no pre-cooking required. But like I said, I don't go in for recipes, I go in for techniques. If you know how to cook beans almost any night of the week for about, like I said, 70, 80 cents worth of beans, maybe a couple of bucks worth of fresh veggies, you can make a meal for your whole family for, $3, $4, right? It takes just a little longer than using canned beans. You have to plan for it, but you can put your Instant Pot on in the morning. As soon as you get up, throw your beans in, let them cook. Make sure the keep warm function isn't on, otherwise they might get a little too mushy. But when you come home that night, you got your beans cooked and ready to go. You can cook some veggies in the pot, throw your beans in, bam, dinner's ready, right? Little rice on the side, little shredded lettuce, whatever you want. Like I said, I'm doing burrito bowls. I'll do a little shredded lettuce. I got avocado, a little hot sauce or salsa with some pinto beans, dinner. I think my preference is to stay away from recipes. I'm not organized enough and I tend to be suspicious of other people's ideas. So if you have a good idea of how to cook something, you don't need to know exactly how to cook a recipe. You just need to know how to cook the things in the dinner you want to make. Beans, cook them first, and then cook them the way you want. That's it. How to cook beans, easy as pie, super healthy. You can make a little bit just for yourself or your family. I cooked dinner recently for 10, 15 people for my kids' theatre. Made a huge pot of beans exactly this way. Really easy to make. Pretty quick, pretty convenient, delicious. I had a bunch of people ask me the recipe, so I figured I'd make a video about it. But it's not a thing. It's not a thing. You don't need to know the recipe for my beans. You need to know the technique for cooking beans, and then you go out and make beans the way you want. Any night of the week, you're off to the races.